good, Logan? Okay. All right. Who besides Mom knows the memory verse? It's on the board if somebody wants to read it. Is this one hard to hear? I was going to try it, but I don't think it works all that well. Crank me up a little, see if that helps. Is that better? Okay. That's better, she said. The other one keeps falling off my ear. So I figured I'd try this one, but it's nowhere near as loud. That's because they keep growing. Your ears and your nose never stop growing. So the older you get, the bigger they get. But back to focus. Memory verse. Who wants to read it? Isaiah 30:18. That's good. Just 18. Well, that's because it's just the Bible. Yeah, the tree takes part of that one out. All right, so not last week, but 2 weeks ago, we talked about the persecution of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Today, we're going to look at a similar situation that Daniel faced. Today, we're in Daniel chapter 6. I'll read Daniel chapter 6, then we'll get into the questions. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 satraps to be throughout the whole kingdom, and over them 3 high officials, of whom Daniel was one, to whom these satraps would give account, so that the king might suffer no loss. Then this Daniel became distinguished above all the other high officials and satraps, because an excellent spirit was in him. And the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. Then the high officials and the satraps sought to find a ground for complaint against Daniel with regard to the kingdom. But they could find no ground for complaint or any fault, because he was faithful, and no error or fault was found in him. Then these men said, "We shall not find any ground for complaint against Daniel unless we find it in connection with the laws of his God." Then these high officials and satraps came by agreement to the king and said to him, "O King Darius, live forever. All the high officials of the kingdoms, the prefects and the satraps, the counselors and the governors have agreed that the king should establish an ordinance and enforce an injunction that whoever makes petition to any god or man for 30 days, except to you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the injunction and sign the document so that it cannot be changed, according to the laws of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be revoked." Therefore, King Darius signed the document and injunction. When Daniel knew that the document had been signed, he went to his house, where he had windows in his upper chamber open towards Jerusalem. He got down on his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as he had done previously. Then these men came by agreement and found Daniel making petition and plea before his God. Then they came near and said before the king concerning the injunction, "O king, did you not sign an injunction that anyone who makes petition to any god or man within 30 days, except to you, O king, shall be cast in the den of lions. The king answered and said, the thing stands fast according to the laws of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be revoked. Then they answered and said before the king, Daniel, who is one of the exiles of Judah, pays no attention to you, O king, or the injunction that you have signed, but makes petition 3 times a day. Then the king, when he heard these words, was much distressed, and set his mind to deliver Daniel. And he labored till the sun went down to rescue him. Then these men came by agreement to the king and said to the king, Know, O king, it is the law of the Medes and the Persians that no injunction or ordinance that the king establishes can be changed. Then the king commanded, and Daniel was brought and cast into the den of lions. The king declared to Daniel, May your God, whom you serve continually, deliver you. And a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den. And the king sealed it with his own signet and the signet of his lords, that nothing may be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king went to his palace and spent the night fasting. No diversions were brought to him, and sleep fled from him. Then at the break of day the king arose and went in haste to the den of lions. And as he came near to the den where Daniel was, he cried out in a tone of anguish. The king declared to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions? Then Daniel said to the king, O king, live forever. My God sent his angels and shut the lions' mouths, and they have not harmed me, because I was found blameless before him, and also before you, O king. I have done no harm. Then the king was exceedingly glad and commanded that Daniel be taken up out of the lion's den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no kind of harm was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. And the king commanded that those men who had maliciously accused Daniel be brought and cast into the den of lions, they, their children, and their wives. And before they reached the bottom of the den, the lions overpowered them and broke all their bones to pieces. Then King Darius wrote to all the peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, Peace be multiplied to you. I make a decree that in all my royal dominion people are to tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, enduring forever. His kingdom shall never be destroyed, and his dominion shall be to the end. He delivers and rescues. He works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth, and he who has saved David from the power of the lions. So this Daniel proposed during the reign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus the Persian. Long chapter. So who's the king in this account? Darius the Mede. He was reigning when he was 62 years old when he took over Babylon. This would have been about 538 BC. How old's Daniel at this point? He's in his 70s, 70-some years old. Well over 70. So what are the other governors? Why did they set a plot against Daniel? They didn't like him. Text doesn't really tell us, but why do you think they didn't like him? Because the king did, yep. He had the highest position of power given to him. And he's not even Babylonian. He's not even Mede or Persian. He's a Jew that was a slave. Resentment and hunger for power. The governors and satraps who presented the king with the proposal decree speak truthfully? No, they had alternative motive for the decree. Now, if you study the Medes and Persians, it says it in here a lot. If they wrote a law, they couldn't write another law just after it to change that law. That law stood. It could not be undone. It's interesting. They had the power to write the law, but not to change it. So for that 30 days, regardless of what the king wants to do, that law would have to stay into effect. When it says he pondered till sundown to try to think of a way out of it, and they come back and said, you can't. It was truth. There was nothing he could do to stop it. How's Daniel respond to the decree? In prayer. In front of an open window where the whole world can see him. He didn't change a thing. He knew his God could, and even if he didn't, he still wasn't going to stop worshiping God. At like 80 years or 70, 80 years old. Still had that kind of faith. Yeah. Yep. They're massive, powerful. And these lions weren't fed. Yeah, it's not like they were pets that got fed every single day. They got starved until somebody did something wrong. That way, when they went in, they would attack them instantly and just shred them like they do to everybody who gets thrown in after Daniel. They don't even reach the bottom of the cave before they're torn to pieces. I mean, that's how they are trained to react. When food comes, you destroy it. So how's King Darius find out about Daniel? The satraps went and tattled. How does King Darius respond? Yeah, he's not happy. He's frightened. He does not want to do what he now has to do. Which goes back to Nebuchadnezzar. I mean, this is Daniel, a slave, a nobody in a foreign land, that God gave favor to him over the guy that prepared his food, over the king that ruled at that time, over the next couple kings, and now we're into the third batch of kings, and God still gives Daniel favor in their eyes. Yeah, Cyrus ends his life probably. Yeah.
So all of these laws that were written, they could not change. Are those laws still in effect now?
No, Medo-Persia broke up. Greece destroyed them. But yeah, that's why they put time frames on the laws like in this one back then, because it couldn't be undone, but at least it would expire. So that law doesn't stay in effect for their whole kingdom. It would have a time limit. In case in their human nature they made a mistake and got tricked into passing a law they didn't want to pass, it would run out. But in that period, whatever you set, which I think is why the satraps went for 30 days, because if they'd have tried to talk him into 6 months or a year, he's not going for it. Because then he knows by that time he's going to slay a lot of people, because they're not going to wait that long. Yep. Yeah, they knew Daniel wouldn't last a day. How's the king respond? He spends till sundown trying to find and create a way to get Daniel out of it. And like we talked about, he couldn't reverse his decree because Mede and Persian law would not allow it. So what does Darius say to Daniel as he's being thrown into the lion's den? May your God, who you serve faithfully, protect you from the mouth of the lions. So what do they do to seal them in? Yep, they put a stone. King puts his seal, and he makes the satraps put their seal on too. That leads me to believe that Darius truly believed that God could save him, because he's sealing it from the outside so the satraps can't kill him while he's in there. Because if they break the seals before he does, they go in. So he has everybody seal it.
What happened to Darius? Was he killed or did he live out his days?
I don't know. I didn't study him that far. I'll look it up. So after the king had spent the night fasting and was not able to sleep, how does he approach the lion's den? Runs to it. What's his emotion as he's running to it? He's worried. He's afraid his friend, Daniel, is going to die, but he's also hopeful, because before he even gets there, he calls out to him, expecting an answer, hoping Daniel would answer. Yep. So how was Daniel preserved in the lion's den? Angel shut the mouth. I think we all could agree with it. We all need that sometimes. Yeah. I picture him set up like a lazy boy recliner, sitting on one line, one as a backrest, one as a footrest, just waiting for morning. How does Daniel give all the credit to God? He plainly tells Darius the only reason he's still here is because God kept him safe. Which, I mean, come on, human nature is another one of his shots to be big time. He's powerful enough to subdue the lions and keep them. That's all he has to say. But he never does. He never takes any credit he does not deserve. Yep. Innocent in the sight of God. I was innocent towards you. So God protected me, sealed up the mouths of the lions, sent his angel. How's Darius respond? Yeah. First off, he's very happy. Hurries up, opens it up, yanks them out. Then, like she said, throws them all in. But does he stop at the satraps and the governors? Nope, he removes their bloodline. Throws in all of their family, all of their children, and removes them from Medo-Persian society. Yeah, the lions were pretty full at the end of this one. Yep. But he has, so I was just going to say, but he doesn't stop there. Then he issues another decree that all of the kingdom, I'll make a decree that the people are to tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, enduring forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed. His dominion will never come to an end. He can rescue who he wants. He can deliver who he wants. He can get rid of who he wants. So why was Daniel saved from the lion's den? Blameless before God. God was pleased to honor Daniel's faithful actions. That's in verses 22 and 23. The key to Christianity, obedience. He led a life of obedience. God honored it in protecting him. So does that mean if we get thrown in the lion's den, God's going to protect us? He might honor ours by letting us get eaten.
But he has the power too.
Yeah. We serve a God who is able, but even if he doesn't. But I think when they get to the point where they declare Yahweh the living God is when they come to the point to realize they've been worshiping false ones. I think God opens up their eyes and says that there is only one and I am he. And at that point, Nebuchadnezzar proclaimed it, Darius here proclaims it. So the next question is, does God always save his children from the evil plots against them? No. Very rarely does he. We see a bunch of examples in Scripture where the believer is killed. Stephen's my go-to usually, my first. He was faithfully proclaiming Jesus to the Jews, and God let him be stoned to death right there. Why do I use him? Because he's one of the examples we can see the effects of his death. Whose life was affected by Stephen's death? Apostle Paul. He was Saul, holding the garments at his stoning. Then the road to Damascus, God calls him. And then Paul writes 2/3 of the New Testament and goes all around Asia Minor witnessing for God. All started back at Stephen's stoning. So it's one of the cases where you get to see how his death affected the whole world.
You say if one saint is killed, another?
I'm saying that death of a saint, while we might not see it most times, it always has a huge impact somewhere. God uses it for his glory somehow. In Stephen's case, it was Saul, the Apostle Paul. That started God opening his eyes. He goes on for years still killing Christians, but I bet you he thought back to that day every single time after. Yeah, he even mentions it in his epistles. But that's where God started. So it took the death of Stephen, and God used it to call Saul and turn him into Paul and have him be who he was. An apostle to the Gentiles. Somebody who, when he gets stoned, gets back up and goes back into the city. Yeah, it woke a lot of people up. Yeah. Yep. Could have saved any of the apostles. The only one he did was John. He saved John time and time again. Not for him to have an easy life, but, I mean, they threw him in boiling oil. It did nothing. So, but the rest of them died martyrs' deaths. Now, was Daniel justified in disobeying the king's decree?
Yes.
Why? We obey God's law first. Scripture does command us to obey man's law as long as it doesn't violate God's law. That decree violated God's, so we have not just the ability, but the calling to disobey it. So just as God was pleased to save Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, better known as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, from the ungodly decree of Nebuchadnezzar, he was also pleased to save Daniel from Darius's ungodly decree. Both of these kings has exalted themselves to a place of God by their decrees. Both of them wanted to worship. The decree says, worship me, nothing else. And most people in power will. I think because you'd have to kill too many people. They're all going to turn to worship of something at some point. 30 days, most of them can make it through without an issue. But as soon as they need rain or something in their lives, they're going to pick their little idol up, and so let's make it short, because he can do it every once a year. Set a month aside just to worship him. Just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Daniel may have been serving in the king's government, but who does he ultimately serve? God first. Like his three friends, his obedience to God above the obedience to man was blessed. And he was protected from the harm intended for him. So God clearly in Scripture demonstrates that he has power over every situation. We often get ourselves so nervous about what's going to happen. Well, if I go there, what are they going to say? What are they going to do? Are they going to belittle me? When we ask all those questions, though they're normal for us, we're questioning the authority of God. If God is sovereign, what does it matter? Whatever happens there will be his decree. If he calls for me to be shot while I'm there, I go home. If he calls for me to be made fun of while I'm there, it's just feelings. But when we sit there and we let that trump our obedience, we're wrong. That means we don't trust the sovereignty of God, if you want to boil it down to its bare minimum. Now, I say it like it's very easy to fix that. It's not. Fear is a very powerful thing. That's why I say never expect to stand in one of these big times if you didn't practice all the little acts of obedience. If you haven't trained yourself to already obey God in all the little tiny things, when the big one comes, you're going to fall to. Because if, I always use the speed limit, if obeying the posted speed limit sign is too difficult for you, when it's life and death, how much more difficult is it going to be to obey God rather than man? Because God had the same two commands: obey the laws of man and obey me. So if we can disregard this one, that one's going to be hard to follow. Because if he sends you there, you're supposed to be there. See, when I'll use Charlie Kirk because she brought him up. When Charlie Kirk engaged with college kids, he wasn't demeaning, he wasn't rude, he wasn't ignorant. He argued his position against their position. And when they did the arguments, he always come out sounding like the intelligent one, and the ones that were arguing against him rarely had the facts to back up their beliefs. So he got made fun of all the time there, but it had the opposite effect. Because when this one arguing this side can't back it up with any facts, any history, anything like that, it's just a feeling, and this side can back up facts, doesn't matter what the argument is, the fact side makes more sense to most people. Even if it's wrong. If you can back up the wrong argument with facts and the right person doesn't have any, who sounds smarter? Who sounds more convincing? Whoever has facts. So he got made fun of all the time, but what he did cause was people to look. Open up a book, read, find out. Find out if he's telling the truth or lying. So when we go out and witness, even if they make fun of us, throw stuff at us, as long as we display the love of Christ while we're out there, we win. In God's and in man's. Now, not the ones that stand against us, but you don't know who's looking out the window of the house in the neighborhood you're at and see you acting morally, righteously, pleading for people to come to Christ, and the other side acting violent, mean, hateful. And then they look and see, I don't want to be like that, I want to be like that. Why are they different? It might not have any effect on the people that are being rude, mean, harmful to you, but you don't know who it's affecting around. So sometimes he allows us to go in and get made fun of, beat up, shot, killed, because he can see the whole picture. All we see is that one person in front of us belittling us, but he can see the whole thing. Who? I don't know that he got killed for his faith. He got killed, I think, more for political views, but yes, he'd be a martyr of whichever one they killed him for. I never heard the outcome of why he said he did it. He either killed him for his religious views or his political views. I think it was more political.
His political views were embedded in his faith.
Yeah, his theology is built his political view.
So it's one.
Yeah,
It's one thing
yeah.
to him.
To him, they were one and the same. But to the guy shooting him, most people had an issue more with his political views. Why? Because they were based in his belief. But they don't know his beliefs, so they fight the view.
Yeah, I-
Yeah, and go on defense.
Charlie's goal was not so much. Charlie's goal was to have discourse, to be able to have discourse, regardless of which side of the political fence you were on. He wanted to be able to talk about it. I just finished a book called The Coddling of the American Mind, about why college kids can't have discourse. They just can't bring themselves to just discuss an issue and use the facts. Their calling, their discomfort with an issue allow us to feel unsafe. We're not unsafe, we're just uncomfortable. It's
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
We've gotten to a point in society where we can't agree to disagree anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Charlie's purpose on the campus was to try to show people that you can have a discussion about the issue without killing each other or calling each other names like Hitler and fascists. He was trying to show that we can still talk together as people and love each other as people without agreeing on all of the issues.
And study history. Where does that always lead when you can't discuss things and disagree? It always leads to war. Every single time. No matter which side you're on. If you can't have a discussion and walk away without hatred, that's how wars begin.
They were both
And if you boil it down, I don't care which side of the aisle, politics, whatever you're on, most of our end goal's the same. We all want to make people's lives better. We just have different ideas how to get there. What were you saying, Sue?
When you said about, somebody bullying somebody or something like that, is, they do that sometimes, I think, to make themselves feel better.
Yeah, bullying, absolutely.
And then, like you're saying about arguing with people, I remember one time, Jack said something to irritate me, and I thought, I don't feel like arguing. I said, you're right. And then he said something else, and I said, you're right. And after the third time, he just shut up. I'm not somebody that keeps telling you you're right.
Re-
The point of discourse, Socratic seminars, Socratic discourse, is that you have people hear and hear, but it actually, having that conversation will bring you together, little closer together. And that was what Charlie was trying to do, unite the polar opposites. Let's work together, let's come together a little bit. Yeah,
Try to find common ground.
exactly, yeah. That was a Socratic discourse. If I would have started arguing more, then people argue more. There are rules.
I seen a short.
Socratic discourse, yeah, you have to listen. That's the lesson, yeah, that's.
I seen a short that mimics yours. The one guy comes up to the other guy and says, "How is it you always remain so calm, and you never argue, and you never fight, and you never scream?" He goes, "I'm just at the point in my life where I don't argue with stupid people anymore. I just tell them, you're right, no matter what they say." And the other guy goes, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That can't work." He goes, "Yep, you're right." And it just goes on like that for a few minutes, but it cracked me up.
That's also why Advent season is so important, because it's bringing out our hope, our joy.
Our peace, our love. Absolutely. All right, we'll continue on in Daniel. Next week we'll do Daniel chapter 7. We'll get into the interesting part. Yeah, book part is done, so just Daniel 7, the four beast, I believe, is Daniel 7. Read that for next week. Mom, you want to close us in prayer?